Last week, a 16-year-old autistic girl was arrested after she describes a female police officer with short blonde hair as looking like a lesbian, like my nana. There's some disturbing footage that's gone viral. It shows around 7 police officers sort of manhandling this girl, carting her off as she kind of cries out in distress. She was taken into custody. Eventually, she was released. She's not been charged, and the police are dropping all of the investigations. Now, Andrew, we were talking earlier about the threat of cancel culture to free speech, but it seems there is an equally pernicious, perhaps even more dangerous threat coming from the state and from the police and from the law.
What I don't understand about this case is that, you can't arrest someone for something that they say on their private property. I mean, the police cited the public order bill, but the public order bill has a dwelling defence within it. So you can't. So, and my understanding of this case is that it was something that she said inside that was, or at least on the property that the police officer heard. What's been very strange is that the West Yorkshire Police have not. They've claimed that there's more information to this than we know about, body cam footage and the like, more circumstances which will add further context. Why is none of this? To my knowledge, it hasn't been released yet. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And of course, it raises a suspicion that there isn't really much to release.
Yeah.
We know that the police for a long time now have been policing what people say rather than going after criminals. They've been very concerned about the notion of causing offence. That video is really bad because the autistic girl is hitting her head and screaming. The behaviour of the police officer who instigates the arrest, it looks very much like she is personally offended at having and has deemed this a homophobic slur. But ultimately, I come back to this point. The police have no business arresting anyone for what they say. Frankly, even if that was said on the street, it doesn't qualify as harassment, which is already illegal. It wasn't even homophobic as it happens because the grandmother of the child is gay, has a partner, and she was making that point that there's a resemblance. So it's something that this police officer has chosen to be offended by. I think this raises serious questions about the police and the extent to which they have now been captured largely by the training from the College of Policing, and that they now seem to think it is their job to monitor our thoughts. This is, I know it's a cliche, but it is Orwellian.
Yeah, definitely. And I should say that Spiked has got in touch with the West Yorkshire Police, and they haven't offered us any of the information, and I don't think anything is going to be forthcoming, quite frankly, dare I say it, especially now they've dropped the investigation. Rakib, the police at the moment have quite a lot of, quite a dizzying array of tools at their disposal to clamp down on speech. This example was use of the Public Order Acts. They said it was a homophobic public order offence. But there's also various hate speech laws. There's online communication laws for things you say online that could be considered offensive. I mean, we're in a pretty terrifying situation, aren't we? Especially that the police, seem very eager to make use of these laws.
Absolutely. There's a wide range of censorious instruments for the police to utilise if they wish to. But I think the real issue here is how the police treated was a vulnerable individual. Yeah. And there is a vulnerability involved in this. And I think for me, I think that all too often I see the police, they look a bit squeamish and a bit soft, that they can't do very much when it comes to, more intimidating criminals who are up to no good in their local communities, in local neighbourhoods. But it's very easy to pick on this individual, quite clearly. And I was quite shocked by the footage, if truth be told, in terms of how, was the girl 16 years of age?
Yeah, 16.
And with autism. Where's the compassion there? The irony is that they talk about, we have to take action when people, they produce hate speech and all the rest of it. And they see that as being compassionate. Where was the compassion here? Where was the patience? Where was the understanding? And I think it's a terrible era for policing, if truth be told. It just seems like there's scandal after scandal. And we're talking, apparently there's investigations dropped here against the autistic teenager. I think there needs to be an investigation actually into the police's actions over this particular incident.
And it's interesting that how actually there's, a few examples of sort of autistic people getting caught up as if, people who have difficulty with social interactions seem to be at real danger from this kind of thing. And if you think about the boy in Wakefield, was it, where he scuffed a Quran? And the interesting thing is that he received tons of death threats, but the police did nothing about that. Instead, the police arranged a meeting to have him and his mother apologise to, an angry angry kind of religious bigots, I guess.
That's a very good example, isn't it? Because that's I mentioned how the police have seemingly gone along with this identitarian grievance ideology. And Islam is particularly high on that list of oppressed characteristics. And so they would see that part of their role is to enforce Islamic blasphemy law, right? And we saw this again at the Batley Grammar School, the way that the police, allowed the mob outside the school to completely dominate, even though the guy who'd been accused ended up in death threats, and I think is still in hiding to this day. So, and you're absolutely right to raise this issue of compassion. Maybe it's a lack of training. Maybe they don't understand autism. But even if you didn't, you could have seen how that girl was behaving, and what was happening to her. And their basic human instinct should have prevented them from behaving the way they did.
What do you think this means for free speech more broadly? I mean, it feels like we're in a bit of a hole right now.
For free speech in this country, it's really important that the government and our law enforcement agencies and the judiciary, all of these figures of authority are on side. That we remember that we do believe in free speech in this country. We don't have a codified constitution. We don't have a First Amendment, but we do have a tradition of free speech. The first thing that we need to do is sort out the College of Policing. That's really, really important. All of these quangos, all of these bodies that appear to have been completely captured, which the government refuses to do anything about. I know we've had them push through and explain that the non-crime hate incidents have to be abolished, but that was really hard. And, the College of Policing kept resisting that. So I think ultimately we need to get back to the principles of free speech. It needs to be, and the government needs to get on side with this. So they need to repeal the Communications Act 2003, and they need to modify the Public Order Act so that people aren't arrested for saying what they think.